there's this idea that goes by the name of stagnation, the stagnation hypothesis, or technological stagnation, that progress has slowed down. The term stagnation is a little unfortunate or can be misleading because it makes some people think that we're talking about zero progress. And let me just say right off, it is absolutely not the case that progress has slowed to zero. In fact, I would say that progress is still faster now than at any time before the Industrial Revolution. However, I do think that it has slowed down from its peak, and I would say the peak seems to be around the late 19th to early 20th century. So think about the last 50 years or so, say, just to round it off from 1970 to 2020. What are the big things that have happened there? Well, obviously the biggest is the revolution in computing and information technology. We got computers and the internet and cell phones, and that has been nothing short of amazing. I don't think anybody actually claims zero progress, but if you did, you just have to point at that and it instantly refutes that notion. There's been some other areas where there's been certainly incremental progress. The other thing that I would point to is maybe half of a revolution is genetic engineering. We did get some of the first genetically engineered proteins and stuff in the 1970s or starting thereabouts, but it really feels that we've barely scratched the surface of what's possible with that technology, and that's why I call it half so far. This is not to make any pessimistic prediction about the future. I'm optimistic for biotech in the coming decades, but just talking about what has been delivered and is widely deployed so far. So one major revolution in computers and the internet and maybe a half-finished revolution in genetic engineering. That's roughly what I count up for the last 50 years. Now let's look at the same period, but subtract 100 years. So we're going to look at the period from 1870 to 1920. And depending on exactly how you count, you've got 4 or 5 revolutions in different areas of technology that, in my opinion, are of equivalent magnitude. So the comparison to computers and the internet, well, in that period, we got the telephone and the radio invented. And then on top of that, we also had the entire electrical industry, including the light bulb, the motor, and the generator. We had the internal combustion engine and the vehicles that were based on that, the automobile and the airplane, invented in that time, and really fantastic growth within the oil industry that was powering those. We got a lot of applications in applied chemistry, including the first synthetic fertilizer through the Haber-Bosch process and the first synthetic plastic, which was called Bakelite. And to go back to an earlier part of the conversation, we got Louis Pasteur, Koch, and the germ theory, and the implications of that in the first vaccines since Jenner, water sanitation, pasteurization, food handling, and lots of public health practices that started to really, for the first time ever, dramatically reduce the incidence of infectious disease. So across all of those areas, we've just got fundamental breakthroughs and revolutions going across everywhere. Now, you could make the case, I think, that computers and the internet are as big of a breakthrough as any one of those, but to make the case that's bigger than all 5 of those together, I just don't think you can plausibly make that case.